welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Katie, I'm a full-time artist, and a few months ago I shared a video all about my top 5 reference books that I use for art. I'll link that up in the top corner if you haven't seen it, because I do talk and show through the reference books that I use the most. And you guys loved it and asked for more, so today I'm showing another 5 reference books that I have in my collection. And we're going to go through them. I'll show you what the insides look like, because I think that's the thing that I always look for the most when I'm searching for reference books. So I'll be showing a flip through and also how I apply them to my art, because I think that's another element that's really important. Sometimes it's all very well and good having a really nice reference book, but knowing how to apply them I think is really helpful too. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. So the first thing I want to do to preface this video is to talk about how to use them, because obviously the copyright goes to the author and the publisher and the illustrator who have made these books, and they don't belong to us. So that's something to think about when you are creating artwork. If you are turning them into prints, then if you're doing a direct copy, then it's a bit of a grey area with copyright, especially in terms of the illustration style. If it's already illustrated in the books, the copyright belongs to them. So I'd say directly copying from these books is fine if you're doing it in your sketchbook and just to expand your creative practice and use them for personal work, but you need to be careful if you are going on to sell the work that you've created. So I'd say bear that in mind. Now, I'm not a copyright lawyer, I don't know much about the laws or anything, but I do recommend looking it up and just being careful with what you are referencing. But with that being said, I want to show you how I use them in my sketchbooks and share some from my collection. So first up is the National Geographic. Now these are magazines, and I have a couple that I picked up from a boot sale. Most of my reference books are picked up secondhand. I very rarely buy new, and also because I generally prefer books from like the 80s, and I really love the style of those books, so generally that era is what I look for, and I do find those in car boots, secondhand shops and charity shops. So National Geographic is a magazine. These are both from the 80s, and these are just really good for beautiful landscapes, natural images, and those are generally what I reach for when I am trying to look for stuff to draw. My work is hugely inspired by nature, so it makes sense that the National Geographic is something that I really enjoy through. So as you can see here, there are a range of topics. You've got people, you've got landscapes, you've got animals, and I really like to just flip through these to get inspiration. Sometimes it could just be sparking inspiration for a place or a colour palette, like with these beautiful trees, but I've also directly copied these photos, and there are also some online. So I discovered the idea of referencing the National Geographic from finding some on Pinterest, and you can see how I've applied those into my sketchbook here. They just have a really nice colour palette. I feel like there's a vintage vibe to these photos, and I really enjoy drawing from them. This spread is probably one of my favourites in my A4 sketchbook, and they were all referenced from past National Geographic magazines. There's also obviously a lot of information about the places that you're drawing, so you've got the context there, which is also really helpful. But generally I do base my references just on the pictures, so when I was looking through these I was mostly looking at the photos. National Geographic magazines are widely available, but like I said, you can also find some online. There was a Tumblr that I used for referencing at first before I bought these, so I will link that down below as well. The next book I want to share with you is the Oxford Book of Food Plants. Now in my first video I did share the Oxford Book of Trees, and there are a few others in the series that I'd also really like to pick up, because these books have a beautiful illustration style and I really love drawing from them. So this was published in 1969, and I just really love the style here. You can see that a lot of effort went into drawing these beautiful, intricate illustrations. And the reason why I prefer to draw from illustrations is because they've kind of already been stylized by the illustrator first, and then I can stylize it further. So it's like there's a step in between referencing a photo, just to sort of change it a little bit more, so it's being stylized once and you're stylizing it further into your artistic style. And I think that's really interesting, and I do recommend trying it, because sometimes it can be a little bit daunting going straight from a photo. With a lot of these I've stylized the food more, so I tend to go really bright. I really enjoy doing this spread in my Tombow brush pens, where I've made them super bright, and I think the effect is really nice. There's a huge array of food plants in here, so you've got things like fruit and pomegranates, and you've also got chapters like spice and flavourings, tea and cocoa. So there's a lot of information in this book, as well as obviously these beautiful illustrations, which also show the leaves. So it's not just like a piece of fruit on its own, it also shows the leaves and how it grows. So I think that's really interesting, and this is definitely one that I pull from my shelf a lot. Next up is this chunky book. This is called A Companion to British Wildlife. This has a foreword by Tony Soper, but it's published by Colour Library Books. Now, I picked this up from an Oxfam bookshop, so it is chunky, so that's something to think about if you are buying online with postage. It's always worth looking at your charity shops and second-hand bookshops because there's usually a huge amount of books like this, and they're usually very reasonably priced. So the reason why I fell in love with this book is because it includes photos, illustrations, and then like a bigger view of the environment. It's split up into sections, so different locations in the UK. And I think it's really gorgeous to look through. There's loads of information about animals and plants and specific to that region, which I think is really helpful. I really love these overview spreads. I think that there's a lot of inspiration there. But of course, if you are copying it exactly, then we've got that issue with copyright. So what I tend to do is reference the elements separately. These pages show the flora of the area. And then you've also got some of these pages with larger birds. Again, they are illustrated, so you've got that stylization already done for you that you can then stylize further. There's also photos of the area, so I just really like the amount in this book. There's a wide range of different things you can reference, as well as loads of information about the area and the things that you're drawing. Now, it's quite broad, so they're not like super specific compared to like a field guide of just flowers. It's kind of a more broad explanation, but I do think this is a really gorgeous book and definitely one I feel lucky to have in my collection. We've got another big book here. This is the Complete Book of British Birds. So this is published by the AA and in collaboration with the RSPB. And again, this has got a mix of illustration and photos in. So whereas the previous book was a wider viewpoint of nature, this is specifically about British birds. So there's loads of information here, including like the bird's size, how they fly, where you can find them. And so there's loads of information per bird and then loads on the page as well. There's generally an illustration to go with each bird. And what I really love about this one is the variety of poses. Usually they're flying, but you've also got some smaller ones, so you can kind of study their wing shapes and their movements more, which I really like. Towards the back of the book, you've got these photos, so you can see where their habitats are, and also little maps of areas. I just think this is a really good book if you are interested in drawing birds, and also if you want to learn more about them. I did share a bird book in my first video, but I'd say this one is more information heavy, probably a wider variety, and also does just focus on British birds. This one is totally jam-packed with lots of bird illustrations, so if you do enjoy drawing them, I definitely recommend it. Okay, so last up, book number 5 is The British Isles, A Symphony in Colour. Now, I picked this up in August and I've absolutely loved it. I got this for £1 in a bookstore sale, and this was published by Galley Press in 1985. So there's no illustrations in this one, but a huge amount of photos and lots of full pages as well as smaller ones, but loads of information about the area. And the reason I picked this one up is just because of the amount of photographs in here. There's a variety of like interior shots, loads of countryside and outdoor shots. You've also got urban ones, and it just feels like a really good mix. Again, it's split up into regions, so you've got different areas and different countries, so it splits it up into England, Wales and Scotland. You've also got Northern Ireland at the back. But there's a huge amount of photos in here, and as someone who loves drawing the landscape, I think it's a really good one. There's also a good amount of buildings in here, so I feel like there's a really nice variety if you do enjoy drawing them too. This is one that I've reached for a lot since I bought it, and I've been really surprised by just how much I can get from it. I can take like one of the smaller photos and turn it into this larger landscape spread, which you can see here in my sketchbook. So I feel like there's loads of options that you can use the references for. Now, for most of these books that I've shared, if you want scans of the pages, I do share them on my Patreon every month. So if you want to see more pages from these books in detail, then I will link my Patreon down below. That's available on the lowest tier, which is £3 a month. So I really hope you found this video helpful and hopefully some inspiration from the books. I've tried to link everything down below in the description box, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Sunday with a new YouTube video. See you later.